flying above.
Here we go. History in the making.
Green, green, green.
Ross Chastain goes from last to first in the 600, while Kyle Larson can't last the entire race in either Indy or Charlotte. Hi, this is Brett McMillan. You're listening to the Pit Reporters. With me this week, Chris Knight from CatchFence.com and Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Welcome to the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network. And now, here's your host, Brett McMillan.
Hey, welcome to the show. Glad to have Tom and Chris here. Man, we got a lot to unpack this week, and we're going to start with a guy started last, finished first. The Watermelon Man celebrated in the stands. I don't know if I want to eat watermelon that just came off the track, Tom, but there were fans happy to have it.
I was watching that and thinking, what would my wife say if she saw one of our kids pick up a piece of watermelon off the track and eat it? What would she say if she saw me? I would not have done that. But I got to tell you, the exuberance that Ross had was tremendous. He was so happy. You know, he'd struggled a little bit. And the pure joy that came through and the smiles and the elation, and that was neat to see.
Yeah. How many times over the years, Chris, have we seen the kids at Indy look at their parents when they go, let's kiss the bricks? And like, are you nuts?
Well, I think the 5-second rule applied on Sunday night, right? So if you eat it within 5 seconds, it's going to be okay. But look, there was probably no driver more determined than Ross Chastain on Sunday's Coca-Cola 600. After everything that he went through, his team went through, I don't think that they actually had barely any sleep going into. They were pulling a series of 2 all-nighters, and he rewarded those guys for their hard work with not only win, but essentially putting that Trackhouse Racing team into the playoffs.
Well, here's the thing, and it's interesting, Tom, because he was on our air as a color commentator on PRN on Saturday's race, and he was kind of laughing. He goes, we've had horrible qualifying efforts this year, and we said we've got to stop qualifying in the 30s. He goes, well, I took care of that this week. I qualified in the 40s. And he ends up, to Chris's point, team works all night, didn't have backup car at the track, but, when you're at home, you don't have to. They took it back to the shop, basically rebuilt the car, and then spent all night doing it, brought it back to the track, and he started moving forward immediately during the course of the race.
Well, one of the things that happens with this next-gen car, as you both know, there's a center roll cage piece, but the front clip and the rear clip of the chassis both bolt on and off, and that makes it a lot more feasible to repair a car than they would have with the old system. And so that's what they did. They went to work. They, like Chris said, they pulled 2 all-nighters. And, when you're a crew guy, that's what you do. And you understand part of the job is making the sacrifices, and the payoff comes on the track. And I was thinking about this coming over here today, because there was a lot of disappointment on Memorial Day weekend for several people, at least one of whom we're going to talk about later. And, racing's really a heartbreaking sport because, in the NFL, 16 teams win, 16 lose every Sunday. In a race, one team wins, 39 lose. And to see somebody overcome that much adversity to win is really neat.
I mean, it was, you talk about it being the longest race of the year, and
thank God it was for him.
Exactly. That's
thank
my
God
point.
It was.
He made it. He needed it all, but
yeah, he needed all but what, 599 miles.
Yeah, he passed for 5 laps to go. He needed. Was that doing quick math? Is that 7.5?
7.5.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
hey, my degree does mean something.
But you know what the weird thing is? All the points Willie B got, because he got 10 stage points in each of the 3 stages, not just 2. So he walked away with, 65, 66 points,
yeah,
something like that.
65 points, I think, yeah. But that's the point, Chris. I mean, Ross needed all 600 miles to get that 500. It wouldn't have done it for him. Yeah, he needed all 600 to get that win.
And, he's been close to winning this race before, so I think there's a lot on the line for Ross Chastain. He hasn't had a particularly good season or a great season as he's come expected to, but I think that when you have a driver like Ross Chastain, when he is focused on accomplishing something, the sky's the limit, I feel like, as far as I'm concerned, with Ross Chastain. And he was so focused on catching William Byron and, essentially forcing, William Byron to take different lines so Ross could get the opportunity to get around him. And, all William Byron's hard work came up short. And obviously, like Tom said, there's going to be, 39 losers and one winner. But Ross Chastain did everything right at the critical moment, and that was enough to put him in victory lane, and everybody else was sent packing home.
Well, it's been no secret. Ross Chastain has made it clear. Justin Marks has made it clear. They have not had the speed at Trackhouse this year.
No.
Yep.
They've had a lot of meetings about it. Justin Marks has talked about it on Sirius. He had those weekly appearances there. He's talked about it. They've had a lot of meetings about it. They feel like maybe they've identified some of the root causes of it, and they hope that they're addressing them now. Ross has had a couple good finishes now in the last 3 weeks. A good finish at Texas a couple weeks ago, and now this win here at the 600. So maybe things are turning around for them. And the nice thing about this system now, Tom, is they may not be there yet, but he's in the playoffs now.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything to worry about as far as getting in the playoffs. One of the things that's always been unique to me about this sport is it's so easy to fall behind and so hard to catch up. And you can see a team one year contend for a championship, and next year they look like they've never been to the track before. But I think the Trackhouse people will figure this out, and I think they are figuring it out. And I mean, to take a car from last to first over 600 miles is a pretty incredible accomplishment, and that will lift them up. Everybody will go. They might take a day or two off this week, but it's going to lift their spirits, and everybody's going to have a little bit more bounce in their step and a little bit more optimism going forward.
I think these next couple months are crucial for Trackhouse racing, not only for Ross, but for the 99 Daniel Suarez team and also the 88 team with Shane Van Gisbergen. I think that, Justin has been very transparent like he always is. I applaud Justin Marks for being as transparent as he is. He knows that his organization is not up to par for where they need to be, but now that they have a win in the bank, and we're going to Nashville, frankly, where I think Ross Chastain can be another factor to get another win, and he's done it before at Nashville Superspeedway, so there's no reason in my mind that he can't do it again. But I will say this, they have to work incredibly hard by the time they get to the playoffs, because you could be a playoff driver, but if you cannot perform and get out of the round of one, then yes, that win helps, but it doesn't achieve the ultimate goal. And remember how we saw Ross Chastain be a part of the playoffs before, and he wound up winning the Phoenix race in the Cup Series. I believe he was part of the playoffs that year, but he wound up winning the race, but ultimately it didn't make a difference because he wasn't in the playoffs. So we know that team has speed. I'm not sure where they lost part of that speed, but they've obviously found it this past weekend when they needed it most, and it's going to be critical to see if that team can keep up the pace moving forward into the months that matter.
I want to talk about some of the other guys that had really good days and maybe not great finishes, but we've been talking for the last couple of weeks about this stretch of 5 points races that really, I think, are telling where teams are, because this is 5 straight intermediate tracks that are paying points. And once we leave Michigan after next week, we go to a whole bunch of different types of tracks, and you don't have a chance to really get it back together again before the playoffs start. I want to talk about that and who we're seeing deliver and who's still got a lot of work to do. We'll talk about that when we come back.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 5-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name. Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
When it comes to maintaining your engine to run at peak performance, trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant. Z-Max soaks into metal, so it's easy to add to your oil or gas to disperse carbon buildup in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. Protect your vehicle's engine to the max with Z-Max. Check us out at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter to find out more about our full line of products. Remember the name ZMAX for your car, big rig, small engines, firearms, and more. That's ZMAX Micro Lubricant.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
It's hard to believe in this day and age in the United States of America that children are hungry.
Our time on this planet is short. We have to give back to those in need.
Every child has a chance, no matter what obstacles they may encounter.
Never have we been taxed more as a society to help kids the way we are right now.
At Speedway Children's Charities,
our mission
is simple.
Help every child we can.
Because all children
deserve joy
And hope.
and love.
I'm PRN's Doug Turnbull, co-host of the 5 to Go podcast, a weekly deep dive into 5 motorsports issues. Devin Kupka gives the Gen Z view.
One thing that I've never seen before, when the cars got 4 wide, everybody stood up cheering.
And championship-winning mechanic Dan Elliott leans on his decades in the garage and promoting.
Unless everybody is aware of the rules, then no, it's not fair for everyone.
Listen to the 5 to Go podcast on GoPRN.com and subscribe on Apple and Spotify.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back on with Chris Knight from CatchFence.com, Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Brett McMillan, glad to have you with us. So we're talking about the intermediate tracks. Other guys that really impressed me in the 600, Chris, that I'm thinking might feel pretty good about where their mile-and-a-half program, their intermediate track program is right now. We talked about William Byron, almost had a win at his home track. I mean, he won Saturday at his home track, almost won it again on Sunday. The Hendrick cars seem to be, for the most part, in decent shape. Carson Hocevar had a heck of a run going.
He had a fast race car.
Oh, heck of a run going until he blew his engine. My heart just went out to him.
And he might have been the one that could have raced William Byron and Ross Chastain for the win. We'll never know. But I've said this on this program before, is I felt like that the Spire Motorsports team has elevated that team to that next level. What they've been unable to do, and some of it to their own fault, and some of it to their not to their fault, is they haven't been able to complete the races. And ultimately, you guys know this, if they want to be a part of the playoff picture or have an opportunity to get into victory lane, they have to finish races. Some of it I put on Carson Hocevar himself, just being too aggressive, maybe at times where he should have been a little bit more relaxed, but I think he's learned a lot this year, and I'm going to be very curious to see what he can deliver from now until the playoffs. And even Michael McDowell had a fast car on Sunday. He brought Spire Motorsports to top 10, but I like the moves that Spire Motorsports has made this season. I just would like to see them complete the whole package, start to finish, across the board for their organization.
Yeah, because, I mean, Hocevar was very good at Texas, but again, Tom didn't finish the deal. Again, great car in the 600, and now he's sitting back 21st in points.
Yeah, he's got work to do, and that team has work to do. Now, one reason for optimism, Michael McDowell is such a good road racer. And you've got Mexico City coming up, you've got Sonoma, you've got Watkins Glen. He could win in any of those 3.
Chicago.
And Chicago, any of those 4. So I would not be surprised. In fact, I'd be more surprised if he didn't win one of those 4 than if he did. And you know, the difference between winning and losing in this sport is so slim and so narrow. But, you know, the first thing is you have to have speed in your car. And the second thing is, to Chris's point, you have to finish. And the Spire guys aren't finishing it. But if they have speed, that gives them a chance. If they were slow and not finishing, you know, they'd really be out to lunch.
I think, you know, the car that needs to improve the most over there is Justin Haley. I've seen flashes of brilliance out of that number 7 car this year, but I just haven't seen enough to get me excited, right? That Justin Haley has the same type of momentum that Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell have. And I know that they made the crew chief change with Rodney Childers departing the organization a few races ago, but I would love to see, because I've seen what Justin Haley can do in the Rick Ware racing equipment, and I think many of us expected to see more out of him returning to the Spire Motorsports program, but it just hasn't happened. So I think that there's a lot that needs to be addressed in relatively a short amount of time, because believe it or not, this summer is going to go by fast, and Daytona is going to be here before we know it to end the regular season.
Tom, what do you make of 2311? You know, at one point they owned Kansas, were nowhere to be found at Kansas, and then Tyler Reddick had a really good race at the 600.
Yeah, they seem to be a team that's sort of up and down. I think the whole Toyota program is kind of up and down. We had, Bell won the All-Star race, and Denny Hamlin looked like he was out to lunch the whole weekend. And I'm curious. I think both those teams need to develop more consistency. I mean, Bell had that stretch where he won 3 races in a row, and he won the All-Star race, and it doesn't feel like he's as strong as he was earlier in the year. So I'm like the rest of you. I'm very curious to see what happens over the next half of the regular season leading into the playoffs.
And I think Bubba Wallace has lost his momentum a little bit.
Yeah.
Him and his new crew chief were doing an absolutely phenomenal job, but over the last month or so, I feel like, he tweeted after qualifying that he wasn't worried, right? He felt like that even though he was starting in the back, that he was going to have fast car and could be, a contender to have a good finish on Sunday, and he was nowhere to be found and ultimately got caught up in a wreck and ended his night. And then he went back and said, well, I was wrong. So, it's just crazy how you can go one week and feel like you're on top of the world, and the next week you feel like that you're 5 laps behind. But that's just how quick this sport is changing right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with this car.
Well, Denny Hamlin could have been a factor, but they botched their last pit stop.
Yeah.
And didn't get enough fuel in. But that's, to me, that's one of the things about the 600 now. Tom, Chris is the youngster here. Tom, you and I, Tom, been around long enough to remember when this was the ultimate test of man and machine. Well, the machines,
Yep.
But you can't tell Carson Hocevar this, but the machines now are almost bulletproof.
Right.
And to me, the difference now is because it has come down to the pit crews, because those are the guys who are going to have to make a couple extra stops, more than you would in a 500-mile race. And Denny Hamlin's crew dropped the ball on that one extra stop.
Well, one of the things that I've always believed is that it's much easier to lose a race than it is to win a race. A dozen things can go wrong that can cost you a race. And this was one of them. And we've seen, over the last few years, we've seen Denny have a fair number of speeding penalties. We've seen this, we've seen that. And whoever ultimately comes out as champion this year is going to have the right crew, the right car, the right mental discipline, the right speed, because it is so much easier to lose a race than win one. And let's face it, most of these tracks now, the best place you can pass is on pit road.
And I feel like that, I know that the Coca-Cola 600 was our longest race of the season, but I feel like that the mistakes are seem to be happening more and more on pit road, right? And I think it's just the pressure of these athletes to perform on pit road, right? And with the pit stops now being under sometimes 8.5, 9 seconds, one mistake or one, just out of your momentum or rhythm could be the day whether or not you win a race or finish 30th.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing to watch. And it happens. And that's the thing. The one Toyota team that seems to be on the upswing right now is Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know that we saw a great performance out of them in the 600, but they seem to be moving in the direction that we saw. This is kind of where we thought we'd saw them a year ago.
Right. And it's probably going to be another year or two before they're level with the other major Toyota teams, but they're heading in the right direction. And momentum can carry you a long way in the sport. And when you walk into the shop and you feel like, hey, we had a good run last week and we're really excited about the next track we're going to, that helps everybody on the team, everybody on the crew. So we'll see how quickly and how far they can rise.
I think for me, I really thought it was going to be Eric Jones that was going to be carrying the team in 2025. And right now it seems to be the other way around. John Hunter Nemechek had an extremely fast car on Sunday. Unfortunately got himself in trouble, so didn't get the finish that he deserved. But I think that what's even more good about this is that they've been doing it without the help of a partner, right? Without the help of alliance with any organization. They've been doing this on their own. And, Jimmy ultimately had a bad night on Sunday as well for his 700 career start, but he qualified well. And I think that was encouraging to the team overall to see all three of those cars qualify very well for the 600. So things are looking up at Legacy Motor Club, and I think there's people happy about that. They've made a lot of investment in that organization. But I will see another Toyota that I see on the rise is I think Chase Briscoe is finally finding his comfort zone with Joe Gibbs Racing. For him to go out there and win the pole, I don't think anybody had that on their docket on Saturday afternoon, but for him to go out there and win the pole and then to come back and overcome some handling issues and to finish in the top 5, I think you've got to give Chase Briscoe a pat on the back.
Yep. All right, when we come back, there's this guy named Kyle Larson that got a lot of attention last weekend. We'll talk about him.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-393-5045. 800-393-5045. 800-393-5045. That's 800-393-5045.
Catch Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown with Charlie and Debbie here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Our planet is home to some of the most amazing creatures you could ever imagine, from the biggest bears to the smallest birds and everything in between. If we want our kids and their kids to experience the magic of wildlife that we have today, it's on us to step it up and take action. You can make a difference. Learn more about wildlife conservation in your area and how you can help. This is Eli Wenders. Let's make sure our wildlife is around for generations to come. Y'all take care of the earth and it'll take care of us. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
The speed, the drama, the only NASCAR race in California. The Toyota Save Mart 350 NASCAR weekend rolls into Sonoma Raceway July 11th through 13th. 3 days of high-speed thrills, edge-of-your-seat action, and family fun in the heart of wine country. Bring the whole family. Kids tickets start at just $10. Don't miss NASCAR's biggest stars battling for victory. Get your tickets now at SonomaRaceway.com. This is NASCAR. This is California. This is Sonoma.
We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
Sweepstakes fans, start your entries. Visit echopark.com/speedway to enter for a chance to win a Toyota Tundra plus a brand new Thor camper. Visit echopark.com/speedway now to drive off a winner. We welcome you back to the Pit Reporters. Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame is here, and Chris Knight from CatchFence.com. I'm Brett McMillan, and we're glad to have you with us. All right, Tom. Kyle Larson tried it again this year. He did get to drive in both races, but didn't get to complete either of them. It was a rough May for Kyle Larson this time around.
I felt really bad for Kyle. I mean, to go out of both races because of a crash. But I'll tell you one thing. This points out just how difficult doing this is. I was fortunate enough to go with Joe Gibbs Racing to see Tony Stewart attempt it the first time in '99 and go with Stuart Haas when Kurt Busch did it. And to this day, and I told Kurt this the other night when he was elected into the NASCAR Hall of Fame class of 2026, maybe the single most impressive performance I've seen by a driver in the 300 years I've been covering this sport is Kurt finishing 6th in the Indy 500, having never run an open wheel race in his life. And he said, I figured I probably had equipment that was better than half the people. So I figured if I did nothing, I could probably finish 15th. But that's that's what I said as my baseline, and just kept trying to learn as the race went on. But that's an incredibly hard feat.
Well, he didn't spin on the warm-up lap,
and
he made it through the first lap.
I feel bad for Scott McLaughlin. Gosh.
Your heart went out. The picture of him kneeling down on the grass, just his head in his hands, just your heart went out. It was one of those moments. It was comical, and yet your heart went out to him all the same time.
Could you imagine being Roger in that moment?
Roger had enough stuff to worry about that week.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if you guys remember this. Chris, I doubt you were born when this happened, but I think it was 1983, maybe 84, where Teo Fabi qualified on the pole at Indy and wrecked on the warm-up lap from the pole. So,
yeah, I vaguely remember. Yeah, I remember the pace car running into the scorer's tower. When Jim McKay was in the pace car that year, I believe.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. Tom and I are doing old guy stuff.
It's okay. I give Kyle Larson an A for effort. I feel like he did try to put 100% in it, but as we spoke about during the break, is that this car was completely different than from what Kyle Larson drove last year. And for him to be able to hop in there and fight basically a brand new race car, because that's what he was fighting a brand new race car. And not to mention he was coming back from not one crash, but 2 crashes during the month of May. So there was a lot that Kyle was already having to put on his plate, not to mention the time constraint, because he knew what was up against him. And let's face it, if he'd been leading the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday, he still would have been able to pit, because he wasn't going to make it by the end of the race because of all the delays that they had in that race. So I understand it was absolutely disastrous weekend for Kyle Larson, but I still think that you have to hand it to the guy for trying and for the people getting around him. And I hope that he has the opportunity to compete in another Indianapolis 500. And I really hope that we can come together with 2 sports, being IndyCar and NASCAR, and we're not in a position to have a time constraint, so that if we had, I would love to see more than one driver attempt the Indy double. If that door opens in the future, I would hope that the 2 industries and the sanctioning bodies work together to make it happen, because I feel like it could really take off for the sports.
I mean, among the challenges when you try this, Tom, time is clearly a factor. And, you ended up with a rain delay at the start of the 500 before the crashes that delayed the start of the race in the beginning, in the first lap crash that delayed it even more and just shrunk Kyle Larson's window to nothing. But you also start running into a situation that no driver's going to want to try it if he doesn't feel like he can get into a car that has a chance to win or at least be competitive. And that's the other part of this whole thing. Forget, the health factor and the kind of shape you've got to be in to do this. You're going to want to get into something you got to feel like you got a shot in. You're not going to get out there and want to run a 33rd.
I'll take it a step further. You have to go where you have a manufacturer alliance. Kyle Busch had the opportunity to drive a Honda, and Chevrolet, or no, I'm sorry, he was probably still with Toyota then, put the kibosh on it because it wasn't one of their cars and they didn't compete in the series. And so you've got to, the heavens have to align perfectly. You got to have good weather. You got to have a great team. You got to have a team where the manufacturer's right. You have to do a good job behind the wheel. And I just think after watching Larson the last 2 years, and I hate to say this, and again, to Chris's point, A+ for effort for Kyle, but seeing all the obstacles with the possibility of reward being so slim, I'm going to be surprised if we see anybody try this for a while.
And that's a shame.
That's a damn shame.
It really is, because it got me excited to watch the Indianapolis 500, to know that somebody that I was going to be covering later that night was a couple hundred miles away competing in one of the most prestigious races in the world. And I watch the Indy 500 regardless if there's a NASCAR driver in it, but it just gives you that extra oomph and excitement when you know that somebody that you know personally and get to cover on a weekly basis is being a part of it. I hope that we do some rethinking about how we can make this happen in the future, because I think it'll be beneficial for both IndyCar and NASCAR.
How much more impressive does all this make Tony Stewart's feat of completing all 1,100 miles in one day.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And if I may beg your indulgence for a moment, the story from the first time he tried, 1999. Tony didn't work out, didn't have a dietitian, wasn't trained. He finished 9th in the Indy 500. He comes to Charlotte. He throws up in the car, still finishes 3rd, and he parks by the gas pumps where the 2nd of 5 finishers would be, and he passes out in the car. And we're all standing around. There's about 15 of us standing right looking into the car. And all of a sudden from behind us, Earnhardt walks by. And the group of people just sort of, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. Everybody moves. And Earnhardt reaches in, undoes his straps, pulls him out of the car, sets him down by the back wheel, and goes wham, gives him a little slap on the face, spins on his heels, turns away, walking, laughing. 6 years later, in 2005, I'm up in Indianapolis, and I'm in Tony's hauler getting ready to do an interview. And I said, Tony, I got to ask you a question. I said, this has been bugging me for 6 years. What did Earnhardt say to you when he pulled you out of the car? He got this real wistful, faraway look in his eyes, and he said, just 2 words. Had enough? He said, I told him I believe that's all I got for one day.
Pretty incredible. I mean, it is, but to think that he completed all 1,100 miles in one day, and it's too
tough.
much. It's tough.
It's tough. Once we had that rain delay, the odds were stacked against Kyle, and he knew it. I don't think it's fair to put that pressure on him of knowing the time constraints. Like, what if he had the fastest car, Tom? What if he was in a position to win the Indianapolis 500 and he had to quit because he had to be here for Charlotte? That's just a tough pill to swallow, not only for Kyle, but for his team and all the partners and all the people that made it happen.
But everybody understood that going in.
I get it, but
and that doesn't make it right, but that's the risk you take, and it didn't pay off for them.
Yep.
I hope he'll do it again, though.
Yeah, and he may. I just don't know if next year's the year. And that takes us to our pit reporter's question this week. Where do you stand on the 500-600 double? Do you think Larson should try it again next year? Or should Larson take a couple of years off before he tries it again? Or does somebody else need to try it? Or is enough? Just stop trying to do it. Last time we asked you a question that had to do with, let's see, that had to do with North Wilkesboro. We wanted to know if you thought North Wilkesboro, well, do they really deserve a points race? And the question we posed was, what's the best reason not to give North Wilkesboro a points race? Well, let's put it this way. The fans think it should have a points race. 68% said there is no good reason not to give them a points race. 21% said it's better as an all-star race venue. 8% said more laps doesn't mean better racing. And 3% said too many races in the area already. But again, 68% said there are no good reasons not to give North Wilkesboro
too many races
in the area.
Too many races. Oh,
that's why they left in the first place, Tom. There were too many races in the area.
I mean, we used to go race at North Wilkesboro twice a year.
Yeah, and Rockingham twice a year, and Darlington twice a year, and Charlotte twice a year. There used to be like 12 races within 3 hours
Bristol?
of Charlotte. Yeah.
Yep.
And we're getting close. There's like 10 counting Bowman Gray and North Wilkesboro now. All right, when we come back, Tom's going to let us know what's going on at the Hall of Fame this summer, in addition to talking about the Hall of Fame class just announced. Stay with us.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000, and car for car, truck for truck. Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 95,000 five-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure you drive away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines!
Atlanta Motor Speedway is built for battles, high speeds, tight packs, dramatic finishes.
Crossover move. They're 3 wide for the lead.
But you've never seen Atlanta Motor Speedway like this, under the lights, where every moment feels bigger. Experience the Quaker State 400, available at Walmart Saturday, June 28th. Under the lights in Atlanta. Get your tickets now at atlantamotorspeedway.com.
Mark Garrow's your host for Garage Pass, here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Time to pull down on the handle and start rolling them here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
The green flag flies at the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
We're about to contest the Coca-Cola 600. We're racing at Texas Motor Speedway.
Now Keselowski goes way up the racetrack.
Here comes Harrison Burton. He rockets to the lead.
Trouble. Car goes around. It's Chris Buescher.
Joey Logano battles to the outside. They come back to the start-finish line.
Bubba Wallace looks inside. And now here's Byron. Takes a quick left to block him. They head back to 1.
Here goes Ross Chastain. He's going to the bottom of the racetrack.
Bubba goes up. Blaney hits the outside wall off of turn 2.
Can Christopher Bell do anything with him? He gets down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Briscoe dives to the bottom of the racetrack. Side by side. They get loose. They spin. Now Tyler Reddick does a 360. So does Briscoe.
Heading into turn number 7 as he wraps it around. The crowd is cheering for Daniel Suarez here on this final lap.
Allmendinger gets into Alex Bowman. Ross Chastain back out to the front for the final time.
This is PRN.
Let's get back to more Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back. Chris Knight from CatchFences.com is here. Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I'm Brett McMillan. And Chris, what'd you think of the new Hall of Fame class?
I thought it was great. Well deserved. There was a lot of question, whether Kurt was going to get in, but I think he is deserving. He's obviously a champion, and I think it's a great Hall of Fame, and obviously Tom is all part of that. So I look forward to him talking about the class.
Yeah, and that's going to be a fun induction ceremony. We talk about Kurt Busch and handsome Harry Gant and Humpy Wheeler. Does Humpy get to do his own kind of promotion during the part of this ceremony?
They will announce him as the winner. Yes, of the landmark award for outstanding contributions.
But he doesn't
NASCAR.
get to throw any ideas at you on how to do it.
Oh, you never know. You never know.
I think it's Harry doesn't look like he's aged very much.
No. And he's a tough son of a gun.
Oh, yeah.
Does he still have a steakhouse up in Taylorsville?
I don't know, but I know he was putting on roofs for years.
Yeah.
Between race weekends, he was a roofer. This is, I think, a really good class. We had a very spirited debate about Kurt, and I got up and said publicly, since the Cup Series began in 1949 as a strictly stock series, we've only had one champion who was eligible to be in the Hall of Fame who's not in, and that's Bill Rexford in 1950, the second champion who had a very, very short career. And I said, the decision we have to make today is, do we want to have one or do we want to have two? And there were people who were adamantly opposed to having Kurt in. There were people who were enthusiastic about having him in. And the interesting thing is, at the end of the day, he and Harry Gant got exactly the same number of votes. They both got 61% of the votes, which is interesting for two reasons. Number one, Kurt had 61% more victories than any of the four Cup drivers on the modern era ballot. And number two is, with Kurt, with Harry, with Ray Hendrick, and with Humpy, the fan vote, they voted the same way we did in the room on all four
That's
people.
awesome.
I don't know that that's ever happened before.
I think that it's very deserving drivers and industry, leaders,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I consider
absolutely.
Humpy industry leader, for
for
all that he has done, and I feel like people still talk to him about what would he would do if he was still in charge today.
Well, I mean, he's a genius. I was going back doing a little research last week. Brett, do you remember when Governor Easley wadded up one of Jimmy Johnson's cars on the backstretch here
Oh, yeah.
And Humpy called a press conference. It was in the New York Times. It was all over the country. It made national headlines. And I thought, he couldn't have been planning that ahead of time, but he saw, easily get out of the car and the front clip gone. And he's like, oh, this is a story. And so he did a phenomenal job with that. One of the other things I wanted to talk about at the Hall of Fame is on last Friday, we opened to the public a new exhibit honoring the Wood Brothers family legacy of 75 years in racing. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I will say it to collectively toot the Hall of Fame and the Wood family's horns. It's an incredible exhibit. We have at least one part off Glenn's first race car in 1950.
Wow.
We have more than 115 photos. We have about 60 different artifacts. We have we have 6 video screens and one huge LED video wall. And we had a reception for them last Thursday night. Jim France came out, the CEO of NASCAR, the chairman of NASCAR, Ben Kennedy, a lot of the former Wood Brothers drivers. And they are the nicest, most humble people you will ever do business with them and ever get to know. And for us to be able to honor them is a real privilege for us. So there's lots of fun stories. And Len Wood even volunteered once a month. He's going to come in on a Friday afternoon and give tours of the Wood Brothers exhibit there. So we're really excited about that and grateful for the opportunity to have it.
And we did a story at catchfans.com this past week on the 75 years of tribute and talking about the Hall of Fame. So we're proud of that as well. Is it there for the Hall of Fame?
Full year till Charlotte Race Week next year.
That's awesome.
Well, and for the folks who are traveling, they're going to be in the Charlotte area this summer. Is the Hall of Fame open 7 days a week, maybe except for the 4th of July?
I believe we are open the 4th of July. We are open 7 days a week. You can go on our website, NASCARHall.com, and get our full schedule.
So that's going to be great. I got to get down to see that. Yeah, Wood Brothers, great. You're right, great family.
Can you imagine artifacts from the night, way before my time? I mean, I think it's just.
Well, you're looking at two sitting right here.
I know, but I just think it's great that that those parts and artifacts are still around.
Chris, so I've been there 7.5 years now. In my experience with dealing with racers, is there's only two kinds of racers. The ones who save everything are the ones who throw everything away. We had one guy who's been on the ballot for a number of years who, after he retired, took all his trophies to the city dump and bulldozed them.
Wow.
Which was like heartbreaking to us. But the Wood family saved everything. We have a NASCAR race trophy from each of the 8 decades they've won a race in. We have a matching crew shirt that goes with that. One of my favorite artifacts, we were going through their shop in Stewart, and I saw this little pan, and I was with Kim Woodhall, who was the sister of Len and Eddie, and I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Oh, my mama used to make lemon pound cake and take it, bake it on Thursday, so the guys would load it on the truck and take it with them." And we looked in, and there was the recipe card. So I said, we need those for our exhibit. And for our opening reception party last Thursday night, we had the Hall of Fame's cooking staff take Miss Bernice's recipe and make little cupcake size lemon pound cakes for all our guests, which was really cool. So we had a lot of fun with this exhibit, a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun.
That's great. Yeah. So if you're in the Charlotte area, you got to stop by the Hall of Fame. Check that out. Highly recommended. It's outstanding. And that's just the beginning. There's a lot more you can check out at the Hall of Fame. When we come back, looking forward to Nashville and also a little twist to the Mexico Xfinity race. Stay with us.
Learn how thousands of smart homeowners are investing about $1 to avoid expensive home repair bills. John, a former non-customer, said, "My air conditioner broke and I had to spend $1,900 to fix it." Jeff, a customer, wrote, "My air conditioner broke and I got a new one at no out-of-pocket cost." Mary, a former non-customer, wrote, "My heating system stopped running. I had to spend $3,000 to get a new one." Lisa, a customer, wrote, "My heater stopped working. I got it fixed at no out-of-pocket cost." For about $1 a day, you can have all the major appliances and systems in your home guaranteed fixed or replaced. Call now. If the lines are busy, please call back.
Call the Home Warranty Hotline now at 800-610-2650. 800-610-2650. 800-610-2650. That's 800-610-2650.
Lenny Baticki brings you PRN at the Track every week here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, it's PRN's Brad Gilley. Did you know you could take PRN with you anywhere? That's right. By downloading the PRN mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. Download today for station listings and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, The Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
Hey, I'm Corley Joy for Speedway Children's Charities. The mission for Speedway Children's Charities has remained true since its founding almost 40 years ago, to care for children in educational, financial, social, and medical needs in order to help them lead happy and productive lives. So many children have benefited from our group in the past, but we need your help now more than ever. There's so much we can do when we all join together, so let's start today. Visit speedwaycharities.org to learn more. I thank you in advance for your help.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
At CatchFence.com's Chris Knight's here. Tom Jensen's here from the Hall of Fame. And we've got a little change for the Mexico Xfinity race.
Yeah.
A familiar rule that we saw at Daytona, but an opportunity to run an extra couple of cars at Mexico in the Xfinity race. And probably because a couple of Cup guys want to get in there, too.
Well, I think this is a good rule that NASCAR put out this week, is that when we go to Mexico here in a couple of weeks, that they're going to allow the opportunity for the field to be expanded to 40 cars for the Xfinity Series race, right? And I think that this is a good rule because I'd hate to see anybody who makes that trip to Mexico have to sit on the sidelines while everybody else is out there racing in NASCAR's Xfinity Series return to Mexico. So, but there is some consensus if you want to be a part of those two spots. So if you don't qualify in time and you're not eligible for provisional, you can still get in the race by taking the 39th and 40th starting spot, but you don't get owner's points, you don't get driver's points, you don't get race purse. And if you do win the race from those starting positions, it's not eligible to count towards the playoffs or for the team to receive any stage points. So there's some concessions, but I'm okay with the rule because I feel like if you're going to make the haul down there, that you should. I'm fine with have opportunity to make the race, and it's not going to affect ultimately the 38 drivers who play by the rules, if you will, to get into the race.
And the interesting thing is, Tom, originally there was talk that NASCAR was not going to let Cup drivers in the Xfinity race. Changed their mind on that, and there's guys down there who are going to want to run the race who have never run on that track before.
Yeah, and there's always a lot of excitement around a new track. Everybody wants to be the guy who wins the first race at a new place, and who knows how long they'll race in Mexico City. Maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 30. We don't know, but if you think back, all the way back to the Brickyard, how big that was for Jeff Gordon winning the first Brickyard, and how disappointed Dale Earnhardt was that he didn't win the first Brickyard. And so everybody remembers who wins the first race. We all remember SVG winning in Chicago and so on. So there's going to be teams who are going and drivers who are going to be thrilled to race there, and they want badly to be the first ones to win.
All right, we got Nashville this week, and last year Joey Logano won the race going about 600 miles on one tank of fuel.
And multiple overtimes.
Yeah, what do we have, 5 overtimes or something
crazy.
like that? Logano figured out how to go I can't remember how many. It was like 100 and something miles on a tank of fuel somehow. And, he won the race when everybody kept running out of fuel on restarts, stayed out there and kept wrecking, and it worked. And
opened the door for him.
It did. And that was his win.
Yeah, that opened the door for him to propel himself to the 2024 Cup Series Championship. I'm excited about going to Nashville. I love going to the Super Speedway. I know it's technically located in Lebanon, Tennessee, but I feel like that track produces some great racing, and we have all three series there this weekend with the Truck Series on Friday night, the Xfinity Series on Saturday night, and the Cup Series on Sunday night. That's a little different this year, is that all three are night races compared to last year, so I'm curious to see how that'll play. It's going to be a little bit cooler at the track this weekend than we were last year. Last year was steaming hot, and it played an effect on some of the drivers. And this weekend it's going to be, some 15 to 20 degrees cooler than what we expected last year. So I think it's going to be. I think we can see some new players out front. I think this would be a great race for Carson Hocevar to get his first win at a track that he runs. I feel like very well. So a lot of excitement building towards Nashville Super Speedway. There probably is a better place for it to happen other than Music City.
Well, and that's the thing, Tommy. You look at this and you think about how it turned into a fuel mileage race last year. You can't count on that again. And, you never know what's going to happen when you start off with something like that, and an opportunity for somebody to jump up and get that first career win or first win of the year.
Let me throw another name out. We're halfway through the regular season, right? 13 races down, 13 to go in the regular season. One guy who's had absolutely miserable luck the first half of the season, but is starting to show some speed, is Brad Keselowski.
I knew you were going to say that.
And, he got out of the car Sunday night at Charlotte and said, "This is the first time in my life I've ever wished a race would be 700 miles. And as we talked about earlier, the momentum factor, and you get a little enthusiasm with a good run, I would not be at all surprised to see Brad K win a race this summer.
And I feel like he has to win a race.
Yeah.
In order for him to be in the playoff fight. If he's 32nd in points entering Nashville this weekend, and and it's not because just things have gone wrong for Brad. He's had some brilliance of speed at times this year, but things have happened during the race that have taken them from contention. I wasn't so sure that he was going to have a fast car this weekend after his poor qualifying performance, but man, that car came to life under the lights and he delivered. And so I think that was his first top five of the year. And so I agree with you. If Brad Keselowski can keep up the pace, that 6 car is going to join the speed of the 17 and the 60.
What about the run Noah Gragson had last week?
Yeah.
Had a really good run. He hung in the top 10 for a long time at the 600.
Yeah.
And then, he's a guy that,
he's a sleeper.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that can kind of sneak up maybe and pull one off at Nashville.
Absolutely. And again, we're racing under the lights, so it's different than daytime racing. We saw guys at Charlotte who were great at night and terrible during the day and vice versa. Yeah. So I think this sets up as a possible first-time winner race.
And I hate, if I'm Ty Gibbs, Tom, I'm hitting the panic button. Because they're running out of time. Everybody expected, they're going to get their act together and they'll be in contention and they'll be fighting for a win. Well, guess what? We're halfway through the regular season and that team is nowhere to be found. Yeah, they flirted with the top 10 on occasions, but that team, I think, is probably one of the most disappointing teams of 2025. They just have not been able to get to that 54 team together, even with the new crew chief in there this season.
Well, and we've seen before other guys who had success in the Xfinity Series not really translate to Cup. Look at Harrison Burton, for example, and who did exceptionally well in the Xfinity Series and really struggled in the Cup Series. So it's a hard adjustment. And I heard somebody say over the weekend in the Truck Series, a quarter of the guys are good. In the Xfinity Series, half, 2/3 are good. But in the Cup Series, everybody's talented and everybody's in good equipment.
Well, I just feel like for Ty, he was good last year. We started seeing, we felt like it was a matter of if or when, not if he was going to win a race, right? And and this year it's a matter of if he's going to win a race, not when, because the roles seem to be reversed for Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, he just had his 100th start. A lot of people have been saying for a while, Well, when you get to your 100th start, usually that's kind of around the time the wins start coming. So
we'll see.
We'll have to wait and see. When we come back, white flag laps.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 five-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
We work hard to keep our cars looking great on the outside, but engine components need our attention too. That's where you can trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant to disperse carbon buildup in your engine and fuel system to keep your car or truck running at its peak. By soaking into the metal of your engine, Z-Max Micro Lubricant improves performance, extends engine life, and reduces emissions. Trust the many customers who've said, "Thanks for saving my engine." Find out more at zmax.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network. A NASCAR memory with Doug Rice and Kyle Petty.
They established the Hall of Fame. First two people that get in, besides your dad, is Bill France Sr. and Bill Jr. Your time behind the wheel overlapped with Bill Jr., didn't
Yes,
it?
for sure. For sure. I was called to the truck many times while Bill Jr. was in there. But you know what? What I remember about Bill Jr. as much as anything was being a kid and him sitting and talking to my dad or talking to my granddad. And Bill Sr. would be in some of those conversations, but you'd sit down at the racetrack and they would talk about where the sport was and where the sport was going. Bill was never satisfied with where the sport was. And that is the one thing that I came to admire about him. At the time, I didn't. At the time, I didn't appreciate it as much. But, you know, I'll never forget we were doing some stuff and I was driving for Felix and I was called to the truck and I was reminded gently by Bill France Jr. that this was his sport. And if I would like to participate in his sport, that I needed to kind of change my ways. And I changed my ways so that I could participate in his sport.
We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back. Time now for our white flag laps. And first up from the NASCAR Hall of Fame, it's Tom Jensen.
We mentioned earlier that the NASCAR Hall of Fame has just opened its Wood Brothers 75th anniversary exhibit. But I want to talk about the family because it's really remarkable. You think about Hendrick Motorsports having 600 employees and Gibbs and Penske having hundreds more. In 75 years, there have been 9 management people. No, not that many. 7 management people in running Wood Brothers Racing. First it was Glenn, then it was Len, Eddie, and Kim. And now, in addition to Len, Eddie, and Kim, who are still there, it's John, Jordan, and Kevin. And you think, not only are they still around after 75 years, they're still winning races. They won a race last year. They won a race this year, and they've done it by maintaining great relationships in the sport, their loyalty to Ford Motor Company, but above and beyond all else, they're really amazingly kind and good people. And it's really, I can't stress this enough. It really is an honor to work with them and create something that pays tribute to their 75 years of fantastic accomplishments.
I look forward to getting over there and taking a look at it. And you know, you always forget that they actually got taken to Indy one year, to the Indy 500, to show them how to do a pit stop right.
So just real quick, Leonard Wood was an Indy inspector said, "I bet you can't fill those 58-gallon fuel tanks in a minute." He filled it in 15 seconds.
Next up, Chris Knight from CatchFence.com.
Yeah, last weekend at the Coca-Cola 600, the Cup Series debuted a new television partner with Prime on Sports, Amazon Prime. And I just wanted to give a shout out to that whole team. I thought their delivery was exceptional all the way around, in my opinion. I felt like that they really did a great job for us, and I just want to give them 2 thumbs up and look forward to seeing what they do in their final 4 races. And a reminder to the fans, you can sign up for free and get the rest of their season for nothing.
Yeah. If you're emailing Chris, it means you got a computer and you can watch it on your computer, or you can listen to the radio instead. There you go.
That's right.
We're all for the radio. I just want to say quickly how much fun it was to be in victory lane with Ross Chastain. To have a guy win a race and be that excited, that's rewarding. And that's what it's all about, is to have that level of enthusiasm. And that's what you really enjoyed. Tom, Chris, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week on the Pit Reporters.
Join us again next week for the Pit Reporters on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.